bodywork first. Now, no worries, I will be continuing the Mitsubishi Eclipse from the Fast and Furious in a very short manner, although I've said that a couple of times before. I am not abandoning that project, it's just a bit too much work at the moment in order to produce the videos every week, and I'm really busy with everyday life, my other company, and an upcoming show that I'm doing for the TSMC webshop in Houten, the EPMS ESM. So if you're interested in checking that out, it will be November 25th, I believe. Let me check just to be sure. Yes, November 25th in the Netherlands, and I will be there with my web shop and all the items that I have for sale. So if you're interested in coming and saying hello and just buying some items, you're more than welcome to do so. Now in the meantime, I've started with scribing out all the panel lines, moved on to sanding, and shortly I will be moving it into the spray booth for some primer. So like I said, I'm not abandoning the Mitsubishi Eclipse, I'm just putting it on hold until I have a little bit more time on my hands, and I still wanted to create a cool video for you guys, and painting a body isn't really as much work as it might seem for me, at least that is, and that is a pretty quick to produce video. So in the meantime, I've started applying the primer. I'm using primer from the Street Blisters. This works really well on their on plastic, and also super well on the resin that I'm using here. It adheres really nicely, creates a nice and smooth finish, covers really quickly, also dries super fast, and if applied well has a nice smooth finish. Now in this case I sanded the body with 400 grit, and that sometimes is a little bit too rough, and therefore after the first coat of primer I let it sit for a couple of minutes and then started sanding it smooth, removing all the imperfections with a 600 grit, and then moved it back into the spray booth for a second and final coat of primer. Now this primer is applied pretty thick, and usually I would not recommend it, but since this body is made out of resin, it can handle a lot more than plastic bodies can. If this was done to a plastic body, be sure to apply multiple thin coats and not go as thick. With the second coat of primer now applied, it was applied nice and thick like I said, and therefore left a super nice and smooth finish. I did check over it prior to moving on to the color, but there weren't really any imperfections that needed to be sanded out or any rough surfaces at that, so I could just move on to the color. Now the color that I decided to use is inspired by the stripes that I was talking about during the unboxing. I was really hesitant on applying those stripes or not. I did really like it, although it is a pretty standard livery on some of these cars in the AMR spec, so I decided just to turn around a little bit and just paint the entire car in that color instead of only doing the stripe. As you can see, the color is covering really nice and quickly, and this is just the first coat. So the second coat will be applied as well, and again, just like the primer, this is a resin body, so I'm applying it a little bit heavier than I usually would on a plastic kit. So please don't apply it as heavy as I'm doing it right here on plastic, and instead of doing it in the two coats that you see me do it right here, you could do it in about in about 3 to 4 coats, and maybe even 5, just going a lot thinner and building up the coverage very slowly, leaving it with enough time to dry in between layers so that it does not crease the plastic. So after the first coat is applied, again the coverage is really good, so I could just quickly move on to the second coat. Now this one, just like the first one, is pretty heavy because it is a resin body, and therefore it lays down nice and smooth and gets a really super quick coverage. And with this being a 2-coat system, the first one is just the lime yellow. The second coat that is going to be applied on top of it, well, not coat, color, is a pearlescent transparent color. This gives a really nice pop, and also the metallic pearlescent finish that this color needs to be, and I really like it. It turns the color from a pale, or not a pale, just a basic lime highlighter green, yellow, into a super deep pearlescent color. Now on camera this is always really hard to capture, so at the end of the video you will have some pictures showing some of the metallic flake really well and giving really good life to the paint job. So after applying that pearl coat, I let it sit and cure for a little bit before moving on to applying some of the badges on the front and the back, and then apply the clear coat. The clear coat was sprayed on top of the badges first, just to acclimate the decals to the clear coat. That was left for a little bit, and in the meantime I moved on to all of those hard to reach east forget spots and could then start covering the rest of the body. Now for some reason this color really attracted a lot of lint and dust, and I was fighting them a little bit. This one didn't blow off the body as there was a little bit too much clear coat already on there and having it stick a bit too much, so with a small tweezer I simply took it out and moved on to the rest of the paint job, or at least the clear coat, and I encountered a couple more pieces of dust and lint, and some were just unavoidable and are now permanently stuck underneath the clear coat. Some are in quite nasty spots, but overall I think it should be fine and nothing can really be done about that, to be fair. So live, learn, and just let go. After finishing off the first coat, it was set to dry for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I could then move on to the second and final coat of clear. This one is pretty much the same as the first one, maybe a little bit slower movement of the hand and further pull of the trigger to apply more clear coat on top of it, so it can self-level really nicely and create the best possible finish that I'm always after. And after applying that second and final coat of clear, it was set aside to cure for a couple of days, and I will be moving on back to it after I do another episode on the Eclipse and just get that further to the finishing line. Now as you can see, the clear pearlescent coat, the second coat or the second part to this paint job, made it really nice, pearlescent and deep, and really brought life to the paint job, and it really looks cool in my opinion. Now I am debating with myself whether to add some carbon fiber to the roof and the side skirts, and also some of the diffuser parts and the front lip, and I think I'm going to be doing that in a flat or matte finish, maybe even a satin finish, but I would like to hear you guys' opinion. Should I add the carbon fiber to the roof and some of the other parts, or should I just leave it as is and do those in plain colors, black or maybe even some gunmetals? Let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see for this one.